Slurpy dirt, my G's. I hope you guys are doing well. I just wanted to make a really quick little tutorial today on a little bit of Vital, but mostly a sort of layering trick for your bass lines or leads or anything really, using convolution reverb in a extra creative way that I've not tried out before, but that is quite simple to do. I think you can do most of this with free plugins as well. And basically, we're going to transform this Vital patch, how it sounds sort of by itself, with some drums here, into a sound which has a bit more layering and interest and sounds like this. So you can see I've bounced out the audio and I've got 2 extra layers going on here. But if you want to jump into the Vital patch for just a moment, and I've actually just put on all of my Vital presets for sale on my website. They're all at 50%. You might have got the email for that already. But if you didn't, that's just a quick update to let you know. And it's going to end on Sunday, this little Vital sale. Now, this is a patch I just made this morning, and it's not necessarily the best patch I've made, but it's very, very full and yeah, all encompassing in terms of the harmonics. And so I thought it would be a cool thing to like sidechain a lot. So that's why I've got like a nice heavy sidechain going on to give it a bit of extra movement. And basically, the patch is created from a lot of sine waves. 3 sine waves to be precise, but they're pitched in such a way which makes the tone a bit more interesting than usual. So I've gone a bit off the beaten path with the pitching. I haven't really thought it through, you know, like in terms of a scale or something. I've just been very random with it. So we've got a sine wave at sort of -17. We've got one at +1. And this one's got FM that's going to come in from the third one, which is at -24. So that's going to go in from FM oscillator 3 onto this middle one. So you can copy that because it's quite a nice setup for a nice sort of harmonic bass tone. So yeah, -17, +1, -24. And then there's a little bit of detuning. So this +1 is actually, I've sort of pitched it down quite a lot here. This is the final result of some just sort of tweaking around, you know. But yeah, adding a bit of white noise. Then I've got a little analog notch filter with a nice interesting shape, just a little bit here, around like almost 1K on this bottom sine wave. And you'll hear this come into effect more when I add on the distortion in a moment, which is really the integral part of the sound anyway. But the filter 2 just is taking out a bit of the low end on oscillator 2 and the sample section, which is a bit of white noise. But we've got to go ahead and add some distortion straight away. That's the main thing, because it's up at 30 dB, so it's full whack. Full whack on the hard clipping, and you'll hear that with these filters here, in combination with another one that's going to come in just before the distortion, they add some, yeah, kind of subtle controls to the tone of the sound. But next we're going to go ahead and add some chorus, and I'm trying to move quickly because I want to get over to the convolution reverb part. I just want to show you this patch as well. So this is where massively stereo it, you know, just a nice bit of chorus. It's only 16%, but it just makes a huge difference after that distortion. Tiny bit of delay, nothing crazy there. Bit of sort of OTT style saturation with the compressor, turning the attack up and the release down again, and just mixing it in a little bit, and then a touch of reverb at the end. And that's pretty much. I don't remember if I left the phaser on or not. Now, if I go back, no, the phaser is off. Okay, so that's basically it. And yeah, turning on my side chains, which are obviously very important. to give that extra movement, because the bass is quite sort of sustained. Like, it doesn't have such an interesting movement to it. That's why I like adding on a lot of sidechain for this kind of sound. Helps make it a lot more interesting. And there's another thing that I've done with it, which is I've turned the glide up quite high, so 0.111 seconds. So it's quite a slow glide with one voice, legato and glide on, so that when I've got these little MIDI grace notes here, you get a nice little glide up and down. And you know, when it, for example, here, you know, it might not even reach all the way to the top before it comes back down again, because the glide is quite slow. So that's intentional, to get just a bit of a random kind of pitch, kind of bend happening, you know. So anyway, that's how it kind of was, just straight out of Vital. You know, it's the main mono part sort of done, and it's got some stereo on it because it's got the chorus and everything like that. But I want to just take it to the next level and give it like a big sort of wide stereo, like kind of like overly dramatic stadium feeling. And so that's for me is better to do than with like some extra layers, because then you can have more control of like EQing the layers and it, you know, independently of the main sound. So that's why, you know, it's better to like add stereo layers afterwards, like in audio, rather than trying to do it all in the patch if you want to, like, you know, do it nice and like precisely. So what I've done then is I've bounced out the I basically bounced out the bass line twice, and then I've got some convolution reverbs on both of the layers, and they're two different convolution reverbs, and I've applied a rhythm to each one, which is independent from the other one. So this could use a tiny bit more mixing, and we can maybe go ahead and EQ it again slightly, because when we're blending in the stereo layers, you've got to EQ it and get it to sort of fit, and you're always fighting that balance between like not shrouding the mid-range and over complicating it, but you also want to have, you know, enough content coming in that it's making like a noticeable difference. So there's always that balance going on. But let's first look at the convolution technique that I've used. So both of these, just the same file of bass bounced out, and we're going to apply a different convolution to each one and make sure it's at 100%. So the first one here is going to be, this is the 7th chord on the synthetic mode on the kilohertz convolver. But you don't have to use that one, because that's a paid one. You can also use the Melder Convolution Easy, which is a free one, which you could just use 2 versions of that with different presets. So for this, for the second layer, I've gone for the vowel sound, which that sounds really cool. The vowel 5, and you could do like 2 different vowel sounds. For example, that was how I started off this process, but then I switched out to the convolver for one of the layers, because I thought it would be a little bit more, bit more of a sharper difference between the sounds. So then, anyway, the idea is we're not having both of these convolutions on at the same time. We're gonna sort of hock it between them. We're gonna like apply a rhythm so that they sort of are call and response with each other, essentially. So the first one, I'm going to use the LFO tool for this, because I love it and I've used that for years. But you can use any kind of, you could use the M tremolo from Melder Production if you wanted like a free version of this, because that also has like volume, volume automation. So I'm just going to do like 1/4, nice and simple, and like a ramp down. But the volume usually would be up, you know, this. You know, that's the normal way to do it. You know, obviously from the volume at the top will be 100 and the bottom one will be 0. But I'm going to reverse it. So it's going to basically do the opposite of what you're seeing. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is I'm basically just going to copy and paste the LFO tool onto the second layer here. And just all I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the volume the other way. So one of them, they're both like doing an eighth note volume automation, but one of them is doing it sort of plus, plus like 87 or, could be 100, whatever. And the other one is minus 80. So that they're going to be independent from each other. So basically, it's almost like you're doing a ramp down for one at the same time you're doing a ramp up for the other one. It was just easier and quicker to, do the one patch, copy it, paste it, and then just make the volume negative for one and positive for the other. That's basically, creating that one's going up, one's going down effect. And at the same time, to give them even more separation, I've panned them differently. So one of them is going to pan one way to the right a little bit, just 20 or whatever. The other one's going to pan to the left a bit, 14. These little small differences in the volume, like 87 and minus 80 and 20 and minus 14. That's just where I'm trying to fine tune it, because it doesn't have to be 100 or 20. It doesn't have to be perfectly equilateral, because the sound is different anyway. So you want to just pay attention to that in the mix with your ears and find whatever value is best. But the main idea is that one's going one way, one's going the other way. So you've got this these two convoluted versions of the bass line, panned separately and rhythmically independent from each other. And then the next job is to EQ them back in, because right now I've done it on the whole bass with all the low end in. So if I were to add this back in, it's not bad. It's pretty good, because the convolution is on, at 100%. That basically means, that the harmonics are completely different. The harmonics are completely different to the original bass. So technically, there is space to have that going on. But it's just in the low end, it's just going to start to eat up the headroom a lot more if I keep adding too much low end on top of the bass. So that's why I want to use an EQ to sculpt that out now. But it does sound nice and full like this, but it's just going to be a little bit cleaner if we do go ahead and EQ it. So I'm going to aim for halfway up, pretty much, 500 or 600, something like that. And yeah, take out a bunch of low end, do some finer kind of adjustments here. And here's one I made earlier. I've EQ'd them both like this. Similar kind of EQ. It's just this one, because of the harmonics on that vowel was it's quite spiky around there. So I just did a bit of extra sort of flattening out the curve, want to keep it a little bit more level. I don't want it to be, all up and down and all over the place, because I want it to fit in quite smoothly. But yeah, those are the kind of ones I made earlier. But as I've gone to record this tutorial and listen again, I've noticed that I could probably give them one more sort of round of EQing each and just tighten them up a bit more. So let's quickly add another little low pass to both of these here. And you can see, because the first EQ doesn't always take out all of the low end, so that's why I like to do it sort of multiple times. Just creating a bit more space in the lows and the mids for the main bass line without the convolution reverb to just sort of dominate the spectrum there in the important part, So again, just a little bit more low cutting on the other layer here. And that feels like a little bit more cleaner. So you might hear the layers, a little bit less now. You could imagine that the main one is sort of perhaps 85% almost of the whole sort of volume, and the layers are this extra 15%. But we've created this slightly larger than life extra stereo stadium feeling dimension to the sound, which you couldn't get that. You couldn't do it that well and that precisely, just in the synth. especially in Vital, because we're using convolution to add new harmonics into the sound. So we're not going to phase with it at all. We're going to like create new content that's going to sort of fit around what we've already got. So that's important. And also we're creating this extra cool interest by having 2 convolution reverbs independently, rhythmically, different to one another. So it's gonna trick the ear a bit, and it's gonna give it this like more, incredible feeling. Really. One more thing you can do as well is just adjust the volumes of the layers as well. That's also the last kind of thing to mix. But now you can hear the difference again from the original to with the layers. Yeah, a lot more full and exciting, and not too difficult to do really. And you can apply this technique on any sound. It doesn't have to be a very racy kind of overly sine wavy Vital patch. It could be on your vocal group. You could do it on your guitar lead. We could do it on anything. But I think that's a cool technique. Picking like 2 different convolution reverbs and rhythmically sort of gating them like separate from each other to create like an extra kind of rhythm in the layering, And in this way, it's like sort of a bit subtle, like because it still feels like one sort of sustained, consistent sound, but you've introduced this sort of artificial life into it by doing it this way. But you could take that same principle and apply it to another sound or effect and do it sort of more drastically and extremely, so you really notice like the kind of rhythmic changes in the convolutions. So yeah, you could do it on varying degrees is all I'm trying to say. But I think it's a cool creative technique that anyone can do with a couple of convolution reverb presets and bouncing out to audio and a little bit of EQing. So yeah, hopefully that was a little inspiring thing you can have a little play around with today or at some point over the weekend. And don't forget, if you want some really, 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 really sick Vital presets, all of mine that are on my website are currently half price, including the latest Vital Renaissance, which is probably the best one that I've made. So links for that are down below. And yeah, have a great rest of your weekend, my G's. I'll be back very soon with some more tutorials. Peace out.